Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm sorry if you're hearing a terrible noise, but I'm in a new house and they're making a lot of work, so please be patient. But it has been a terrific Saturday, Alistair. Plenty of things to talk about, and I really don't know where to start. From Lazio beating Fiorentina, clean sheet, Patric assist, Sarri praising Patric at the end of the match. I don't know. Where do you want to start? There are plenty of things to talk about today, and all positive.
There are, yeah. I mean, it's strange because since we last spoke, there's been a massive protest outside the Formella training ground after the. Well, we did a lot on the transfer market last time, so we don't need to do that again. But obviously a lot of unhappiness out there around that, and let's be honest, the mood was as bad as it's been all season, and it's amazing how quickly things change, isn't it? Because one performance like that, kind of a reminder of, I guess, what we've got and where we are and the progress that's being made, has cheered everyone up a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, maybe start with the defense because this is probably the most extraordinary thing that's going on at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, Alistair, before we talk about the match, I want to take a step back because Sarri in the press conference before the match was obviously asked about the transfer market, and he said the transfer market is finished. I don't want to talk about that because otherwise I give an option to my players to, they can not perform as expected because they say, well, the manager is not happy because we didn't sign anybody, so we are not good enough and we cannot achieve what we are looking for. And I thought that made a lot of sense, and it was the right thing to do. And we saw it on Saturday. Lazio played really well, much better than Fiorentina. Sky, I don't know if you heard it, Sky Italy at the end of the match said, well, sometimes it's better to not make any signing in January because you're already training the team from 6 months and you don't have to restart for new players. I don't agree on that, honestly, because Juventus prove that if you sign the right players, they have an immediate impact. But we can see that the team is improving even without signing new players, right? Especially the defense.
Yeah, I don't think January. I get that in the sense I don't think January is a time to rip up your entire team and start again, but it is a good time to top up what you've got and strengthen your areas of weakness a little bit. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think Sarri has dealt with the whole situation really, really well. I think we were kind of asking a question of how he would respond to this and what kind of he's a man who speaks his mind and he'll say what he feels. But I think the way he's dealt with this has been brilliant. He's done everything he can to stop this from snowballing to becoming a much bigger deal than it already is. And even if you compare Mourinho at Roma this season, who spent a lot of time after the summer transfer window closed criticizing the transfer market that Roma had just had, despite spending more money than anyone else in the league, and criticizing the quality of squad he had. And if you contrast that kind of approach to things and how that ran on and became an on-running story and made players in the squad unhappy, is completely different to Sarri's approach of basically backing who he's got and what he's got. And I think you can use this kind of thing to your advantage, to create a togetherness and create a kind of feeling of strength and identity and unity within the squad, because it feels like, right, we're not getting any help here. We're going to have to do this ourselves. And I think Sarri seems to have gone down that line and quite effectively.
Do we want to talk about Zaniolo and the goal disallowed? No, we can only talk about Lazio, right?
I'd like to talk about your reaction, Vittorio. What was it? A little bit emotional, was it?
Well, as usual, the zone was 5 minutes later, and I opened your tweet and said disallowed when they were still talking about, no, I don't think it's going to be disallowed. So, it was a nice reaction. Yeah.
For any listeners who didn't see this, Vittorio publicly said he loved me after this, which I think is a first. So I love you too, Vittorio.
First and last. But yeah, it was a great Saturday, starting from Roma Genoa. Roma not able to win against Genoa, and then going forward to Fiorentina Lazio. Alistair, 4 clean sheet, 3 consecutive, 3 in the Serie A matches, 1 in Coppa Italia, all without Francesco Acerbi. Is he the problem, or is just coincidence?
I don't think it's so much that they were without Francesco Acerbi, but that they were with Patric.
Well,
Patric is the rock that this defense has been needing this whole time. We've just needed to give him consistent game time, and the problem is solved. It's pretty remarkable, really, isn't it? I mean, I think it's far too simplistic to say our best centre back is out and we start defending well without him, so we should keep him out of the team. But I think it says more about the way the team is evolving tactically, the way that their organization is improving, and also I think probably tweaks that Sarri is making as well. I mean, against Fiorentina, I think we saw the biggest kind of change probably to tactical approach to a game so far, in the sense that Lazio defended a lot deeper than usual. They played almost like Inzaghi style football at times, where they were just looking to get the ball in behind Fiorentina, who were convinced that they were going to play this really high line despite being absolutely destroyed by Ciro time and again. And yeah, kind of moving the ball quickly and vertically rather than trying to play it out from the back. And I think Sarri, you could tell that was going to be the approach even from the start, where we saw Lazzari in the starting lineup. And this new approach is probably good for a player like Lazzari, because it means that if you're not spending as much time passing the ball around the back and looking to play out, then Lazzari is probably likelier to end up in the team and be used as one of those kind of strike runners.
We have to talk about Patrick, though, Alistair. I mean, 50 meters assist to Ciro Immobile. Astonishing. And then after that, Sarri praising Patrick, saying that he evolved. He was, the type of defender who doesn't think too much, very passionate, but doesn't think of what he has to do, the movement he has to do. And we saw this a lot of time, making silly mistakes. He said he's improved. He's now a more thinking head. He thinks what he has to do on the pitch. And Sarri said that this helped him become a better defender. So someone asked us, I don't remember who, if we should renew the contract of Patrick. I'm still not ready, but what's your thought about that?
Yeah, well, this kicked off a bit of a debate on Saturday night on the old Twitter. Yeah, I mean, I think people are coming at this from all sorts of different angles, because a few swallows doesn't make a summer, as they say. It wasn't the fact that just because he's been involved in the team while they've been defending well doesn't necessarily mean that he's the long-term answer to our defensive problems. I certainly don't believe that he is. But I guess it depends on what you're looking at long-term with this squad, because having just had the January we've had, do we realistically see the club bringing in an entire new set of, say, 3 centre backs in the coming summer? I can't really see it happening, especially considering the other parts of the team that will need strengthened as well. I think we've seen time and again that Patrick isn't a player you can trust in the big games, that he has a certain ceiling and you shouldn't really put him above that level. But as a squad player who can rotate in for the kind of mid-table, lower-table Serie A matches, I think he can do a job as like a fourth choice centre-back. I think he's too high up the ranking at the moment. He shouldn't be as high up as he is. But he's there. He wouldn't cost an awful lot of money. And if we're going to lose Luis Felipe, we'll see what happens with that. If Acerbi's getting older, which he is, if Radu is, on the way out, then, there aren't many options left.
No, and as you were saying, Lazio should go out and sign at least 3 central defenders, because Radu's contract expired, Luis Felipe as well, and we don't know any news about renewing his contract. Patric's contract as well is expiring. So, there's a lot of things to do. And yeah, it's difficult. So you don't buy the Sari words saying that he is evolved, he's thinking much more on the pitch, doing the right movement. You still don't trust him.
No, of course not. I mean, we've been burned before. But it's kind of like the same thing we've had with, I remember, for example, it was 2018-19, the start of that season, we played Juventus, and Wallace had an incredible game where he marked Cristiano Ronaldo off the pitch. And we've had moments like this before, like Mauricio had some brilliant games for Lazio. Bastos had some top games for Lazio. We've had this happen before where very limited players have had very good performances, but it's just the consistency thing, and I think that's what you need. And the individual error is a big issue, because the problem with Patrick is I'm not convinced that we can rely on him to not make a really damaging error at some point, and that's essentially what it comes down to. And he's been at the club for long enough that that's not based on a small example pool. That's based on quite a lot of time watching this guy. So no, I think he can have a use as a squad player, but just like I say, I don't think he should be as high up the ranking as he is. Can we talk about, though? I mean, this is probably an example of how people see him, though. Is that you put out a poll on our Twitter saying that what was the biggest surprise of Saturday, and you put Patrick's 50-meter assist in there, and it was only the third highest surprise for everyone. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, because people believe that he's got skills, right? He has quality, etc. And Sari as well said, right? He said it before. He had the technical skill. He's not a central defender, and so he has those quality to be able to do these things. But still, I was impressed. Again, it was against Fiorentina, and he was already playing well. But the assists, I mean, I had to watch it a couple of times because I thought, maybe it was Luis Felipe. No, it was Patrick. So, I mean, what can we say more about that? Can we say something, Alistair? I mean, it's crazy to defend so high when you're playing against Ciro Immobile. I mean,
yeah,
I love Italiano, but I mean, you have to think about who you're playing against, right? You know that Ciro Immobile is deadly when you give him all that space, and you did it for all the second half. I mean, you're crazy. Lazio could have scored other goals. I mean, right?
Yeah, and I think that was one of the most encouraging things about this, was that I think it showed Sarri's ability and like willingness to adapt, because he's not a coach who says, okay, I'm playing Sarri ball, we're going to play it like this every time, we're going to play out from the back, we're going to, pass the opposition to death or whatever. He has changed and he has adapted to try and make the most of what he's got. And parts, like I already mentioned, parts of that game on Saturday were like the old Inzaghi approach. Make the most of those. The fact that Milinkovic-Savic will win those nod-ons, or if you go direct and behind, Ciro is going to do what he does best. I mean, it was, I think a very different kind of Lazio performance.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting now to see, Milan coming up. Is it tomorrow night?
Wednesday. No, tomorrow it's Roma playing.
Okay, yeah.
There are two matches at San Siro consecutive.
So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see in that game how he approaches it. I don't think Milan will defend as high as Fiorentina did, but
no,
if he looks to play a more kind of direct counter-attacking game again, or if he goes back to the old idea we've seen up until now.
And we have to mention Luis Alberto, Alistair, because Milinkovic-Savic is not a surprise. Plus, he scores every time he plays against Fiorentina. But I thought Luis Alberto's performance was really encouraging. Not only he played well, but when we were defending, he was calling the position to the other players. He looks much more in the system than he was a month ago, a couple of weeks ago. So that's really encouraging, because we said it. This team has a lot of quality, but the quality is when Milinkovic-Savic, Luis Alberto, Ciro Immobile play together, because they are the top players of the team. And so having Milinkovic-Savic, Luis Alberto playing against Fiorentina, that is a very offensive mind team, and without conceding nothing, this is very encouraging. This is really promising. Adding to this that we were playing with Lazio as well. So this was a team that in November and October were really struggling to defend, right? And this time against Fiorentina, we pretty much didn't allow nothing, especially in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, if we play Milan and come away with a clean sheet, that would be a real statement. I think it's been really encouraging progress so far, and Fiorentina, as we know, are a good team who are fighting for European qualification this year. So that result and performance shouldn't be underestimated. But going to Milan and doing it would be another level. Also says I think it's good for Strakosha as well. I don't think all these clean sheets have been down to miraculous performances from Strakosha, but the reality is you look at it, and if a goalkeeper gets 4 clean sheets in a row, you have to give them credit. And when did we ever get 2 clean sheets in a row with Pepe Reina? I mean,
to be honest, it's 3 with Strakosha and 1 with Reina, right? Because one is Coppa Italia and Reina played.
Sorry, Pepe.
and this leads me to the other question, Alistair. Is Lazio going to rotate for the Coppa Italia match?
I think they probably have to a bit, because it's 72 hours or something between games. Actually, no, if it's Saturday to Wednesday, it's not quite as bad, but I think he probably will a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I expect the goalkeepers, that's usually the classic one that changes. It's probably a bit fitness depending as well. I'm not sure, if we'll see Husay come back in, if we'll even see Cabral make a debut, or Cataldi come back in for Lucas, or there's a few options there of kind of smallish things that could change. So yeah, I doubt he's going to go and put out the same team that we saw. But I mean, how big is it, Vittorio? What's your take on the importance of this game? Like, you look at it one way, and Lazio are 4 games away from winning a trophy in this competition, but you look at it another way, and things are kind of starting to go quite well in the league now. We're in the top 6, big European game coming up. Should Lazio be focusing their energy more on other competitions?
Well, it's difficult to say. As you was mentioning, Lazio is playing finally well. And I mean, we are not so far from the Champions League position now, which is incredible. Yes, Fiorentina, Atalanta has a game on hand, so they will probably have more points on the table. But Atalanta is playing terrible football. Did they win 1 match in the last 6? Something like that, right? Fiorentina lost Vlahovic, and we saw the impact he had with Juventus. So I think the league is open. The Coppa Italia, it's true, it's less matches, but they're more difficult, right? Playing away against Milan, it's not an easy task. Again, we have to see who's going to play for AC Milan, because if we have different competitions, so do Milan, right? Milan is back in the Champions League title race, so I think they're going to make some substitution. I will try to win, as always. I think winning helps to win. So Lazio should try to win, but if possible, rotate some players. I mean, now in front you have options. Zaccagni played really well against Fiorentina, but maybe Felipe Anderson can start on Wednesday. Basic maybe could give some rest. And for example, I was surprised to see Leva starting on Saturday. So maybe Cataldi will start on Wednesday. Those type of rotation, but always try to win the match. And I think Sarri is the type of manager who always play with the same mindset. Not a draw, always try to win.
Yeah, well, a draw doesn't really get you much in a knockout competition anyway, does it?
No.
I think what we definitely don't want is extra time, though, isn't it?
Yeah. That would be the biggest issue. That would be the biggest issue. But let's talk about Leva a little bit, because I was surprised to see him playing. But again, he played well last week, before the break. And against Fiorentina, I thought it was a tough challenge for him, but he performed quite well. It was encouraging to see Leva back to his form. Do you think something is changing there? Is Leva back the starter now?
Well, I don't think personally that it was a coincidence we saw Lazio and Leva put into the same team at the same time, because I think that was a sign of this change in approach that talked about. I think the fact that if you're wanting to maybe defend a bit deeper and soak up pressure and try and open up more space in the Fiorentina half, that's more suited to their games, perhaps. Where if Lazio you're allowing him to bomb on more, Leva can sit back and protect the defense more, or drop in to make a kind of back three while he's pushing up the pitch. So that kind of combination made sense to me, I guess. I mean, you could also say that you can get Cataldi to do that job and he maybe be more effective at hitting those balls in behind. But if you've got Patrick in defense, then why do you need another playmaker? Because
Yes.
you've got Pirlo Patrick back there doing that job for you. So yeah, it's interesting. I think it's just good to have options, isn't it? Because started the season with Lucas, then Catali kind of takes over and becomes the so-called playmaker in that team. But I think if you're in a position where either player can drop in and out and do a good job there, that's the best possible solution. Because I think we've both said by now that neither is absolutely perfect for this team. So you want them both playing at a good enough level.
And the other thing, Alistair, is in the past with Inzaghi, we already knew pretty much 10 of the 11 player pick, right? It was always the same team. The only doubt was the third central defender, right? Or the other team were the same. And every season we were arriving at the last month, like May, April, with the top players destroyed, knackered. They couldn't do it. And Lazio would lose a lot of points in the last part of the season. With this rotation being more often, I think one of the things is, well, the opposite team doesn't really know what to expect, while with Inzaghi knew it. And the second thing is, hopefully, the top players will arrive at the end of the season still in form. Luis Alberto didn't play that much like he did in the past. Um, and this should help the team in May, where the points are very important, because if you drop points now, you can still have plenty of time to come back. If you lose in May, then you have just a couple of matches to recover. So I think this is another very important factor, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the rotation is something that Inzaghi, yeah, like you say, was not good at. Remember, especially that post-COVID periods where, the time we were actually in a title race, and his complete refusal to change the team despite having games every 3 days, having been locked inside for 3 months, and was crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think Sarri's, like I say, I think his approach to the whole situation has been quite refreshing. Where it's he knows the limitations of this squad, and he knows that it's not the perfect squad that means he can do exactly what he wants. But I mean, I don't want to keep bringing it back to Mourinho, but it is like night and day the response those two coaches have to what they've got available. Sarri gets on with it and tries to make the best of what he's got and not cause
Yep.
not cause drama around it. Whereas Mourinho has spent most of the season complaining about his squad, which is one of the most expensively assembled in Serie A.
Yeah.
So
I mean, after the Vlahovic deal, I think Juventus has spent more money than Roma. But so far this season, or Roma have won, or they have been stolen by the ref mistake. Right? This is what Mourinho said, which is embarrassing, obviously, and smart people don't buy it. Um, but going back to Saturday, Alistair, we forgot to mention one thing. Vedat Murici scored.
wait, you sorry, the connection must have gone there. I thought I heard you say that Morici scored.
It looks like a decisive penalty as well. And he celebrated like it was a Champions League final. This tells you how much, he was feeling the importance of that goal. I thought it was a sort of liberation. And it was funny because a Mallorca fan, immediately after the end of the match, tweeted, "Thanks, Lazio," with a picture of Vedat. I mean, you're welcome. If you sign him, we are just happy.
You know what? I am happy for the guy.
Yeah.
I think he needed a change of scene, a new lease of life, and the chance to kind of prove himself all over again. But I mean, it is funny because I mean, I tweeted about it on Saturday, but he's now scored as many league goals for Mallorca in one match as he did for Lazio in 38. So
Well, I know it's not Lazio related, but Zaniolo have scored the same amount of goal of red card he received this season. So that's another funny statistic, right?
I did see quite a good meme as well of Ciro, Zaniolo, and Morici all did the same kind of celebration, and it was the goal of 2-0, the goal of 2-1, the goal of 0-0. And
Yeah, that was funny too. Talking about former Laziali, I don't know if you saw Oikonomidis. I don't know if you remember, scored the decisive goal in the Australian FA Cup. His team won thanks
really?
to Oikonomidis. Yeah, last night.
Wow, you were taking the kind of the ex Lazio player watch to extremes here with Oikonomidis. You're up at 4 a.m. watching the A League, trying to see how Oikonomidis is doing.
Big fan of Oikonomidis. The other thing we have to mention, Alistair, is the second signing of Lazio, Kamenovic, wasn't in the squad, and it looks like they have a problem again for his transfer. I don't know what did they do from September to February. This is simply unacceptable.
Well, while we're on that topic, one of the questions we got from Philip Pizzano was asking us on thoughts on Tare's pre-match comments, which I think kind of ties into this again. And if for those who haven't seen it, Tare tried to claim that the January market was one of the best transfer windows Lazio have ever had. While he's been there, Vittorio has walked off now. And it's just insulting, I think, to say something like that. Well, you go first. What's your take?
I mean, he said it has been one of the best winter transfer market. Probably it's true if if he relies to the winter. But come on. He said we sold a lot of players that was very positive for the club. They're all on loan. Come on, wake up. There's only Murici who has an option. Murici and who's the other one? Vavro. I think they have the option to buy. All the other on straight loans. So come on. Can we say just something? Only one thing he was right. Communication was bad. Yes. Lazio communication is awful. It's not bad. It's all, but not only in the winter transfer market. Always. Guys, this Saturday, they didn't do the live score of Lazio women. They didn't do the live score of Lazio Primavera, who won 7-0. Where is the press conference to present the new players? Lazio is the only club who sign players and they don't do a press conference. I mean, this is, the communication of Lazio is awful. Yes, Tarek, you got one. All the rest is unacceptable.
Yeah, I think the less I say about the Lazio communications, the better, probably. I mean, with the transfer markets, the argument he was trying to make is essentially they managed to get rid of a lot of players. And then, once Morici had left, I think the way he put it was like, you managed to replace him with an attacking player. Well, yes, an attacking player, but not a striker, another winger, which wasn't the position we needed. And a player who, by all accounts, Sarri said he knows very little about in his press conference. So we were speculating about this in our last podcast, like how much communication there had been with Sarri, and that we hope like the stories weren't true about Sarri basically being told at the last minute, check out these videos of this guy and then he wasn't playing in the videos. But now it's hard not to believe those kind of stories, given that Sarri said, there was a member of staff who had seen some videos and knows something about him, but I didn't.
And this brings you back to what we were discussing last time, right? Because Lazio was close to sign the Parma player, right? And the agent said, no, Sarri asked for Cabral. Now we know that Sarri didn't ask for Cabral because he hardly knew him, right? So that's impressive. And at the same time, he spoke about the Vice Immobile, and he said for him at the moment is Felipe Anderson and Cabral. He said we tested him on the right. We're gonna see going forward if he's able to play in that position. But for us at the moment, he is a winger. So it wasn't Sarri that wanted the player.
Yeah, I'm just checking here who his agent is, because if it's Mendes, then there's something to talk about there. But I'm not sure if it is.
I think it's the one of Milinkovic, right?
Kesman.
Yeah, I thought that was what they say.
No, it's Invictus, apparently.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know what that is. So, but anyway, okay, that's not. Never mind. But yeah, anyway, it's. I think it's a bit insulting to the Lazio fans to do this. I mean, it is something you see time and time again. I think really in Italian football is this thing where nobody is willing to accept when just say they've got something wrong. And look, it's not weakness to say you've got it wrong. I think in the current circumstances, not everyone, but a lot of people out there would be able to say, if they apologize and said, look, we didn't do as well as we should have. We're hoping to make it up to you in the summer. I think a lot of people would say, look, fine.
Yep.
Difficult, didn't go well, whatever. But it's just this, and it happens all the time, but this idea of just refusing to take responsibility and wanting to always blame someone else and coming out and saying, no, fans, you're wrong about this. It was the best ever. Like, come somewhere in the middle, at least say it wasn't as bad as you're saying. Don't say it's the best, one of the best ever. Crazy.
Yeah.
So those are our thoughts in answer to that question.
Yeah, I mean, Igritare, you shouldn't talk anymore before matches, because every time you say stupid things that come back to you, haunts you. So yeah, please stop. I don't know. I was hoping that Lotito would have talked about the situation to know better what if there are issue, if it's true that Tare Lotito relationship is bad, etc., etc. But unfortunately, it's very tough to communication. Lazio communication is awful. We are still waiting for the English account. And Alistair, as one of our listeners point out, in the English version of the Lazio official website, club manager is still Angelo Peruzzi. So maybe he came back and we don't know it because they didn't make the announcement, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Stop trying to tempt me into saying things I shouldn't say. Another one, I mean, kind of going along that line, another one of Philip's questions was actually about, can we build something under Sarri, take the next step under his guidance? But he said, is he really not disturbed by the club's operations and genuinely enjoying the group? And I think that's actually quite an interesting point, because Sarri is a character who just loves football. And we've talked about this before. His ideal is just to be coaching all the time. He loves coaching and he hates these clogged up fixture lists where he gets no time to just be working on the tactics with the players and so on. So, but do you think that would translate into him not being as wound up as we are, for example, about the club management and its decision making? Do you think he is able to just focus on that one thing, which is coaching the group?
Well, we have to say something. We said a lot of bad things about Lazio, but we have to admit that Lazio is probably one of the few clubs that managers are free to do what they want, right? Lotito doesn't come and say, you have to play this player, or Tare says, hey, I signed this player, he has to play, etc. The manager is always very free with Lazio, which people wouldn't believe it, but it's quite complicated and quite hard to see in other clubs. So I think Sarri is enjoying a lot this part because, with Juventus, he had pressure. He had Agnelli there saying, hey, Cristiano Ronaldo has to play wherever he wants. He decide. Napoli, same thing. We know that De Laurentiis had a big presence in the team, etc. So he enjoys this. Lazio is a very old style club management, right? There's a president, there's a sport director, and that's it. And the manager is free to do whatever he wants. So I think he's enjoying that part, and he didn't think he could be that independent again. So, he doesn't like calciomercato, so I think he's enjoying that part.
Enjoying himself the most since he was at Napoli.
Yeah, that's what he said. And he said, and this is very important, that the players make him enjoy much more the training. So it looks like that the players are really trying hard to adopt the Sarri scheme, the Sarri ball. So that's really important for me.
Yeah, and I think it is possible to separate these two things, and I think we should, maybe be better at doing this as well. I mean, it does help when the matches return. I think that it wasn't helped, the transfer market stuff, by the fact that there was this weird international break that's never existed before happening at the same time. So all of the fans' focus was on this one thing, which was the Mercato. And when the Mercato is that much of a disappointment, I think, and there's no games to distract you, obviously things are going to happen. People are going to get angry. But yeah, when it comes down to it, it's still a decent squad. We've still got some absolutely sensational players in this squad. There's plenty of positives. They look like they're improving under Sarri, that this team is actually genuinely building something. Ciro is on ridiculous form again. Sergei Milinkovic-Savic is in ridiculous form. Luis Alberto even was, I think, playing really well again last night. Zaccagni is really coming on to a good game. Our defense has been so good that we've had this question from Stevie BK. What's a better defensive partnership in its prime, Patric and Felipe or Mihailovic and Nesta? So when we're getting those kind of questions, you know that things are going pretty well.
We don't have to answer, right?
Yeah, a few things have changed in the last 20 years.
Even now, I would prefer Mihailovic at Patric, and 50-meter assists from Mihailovic would be pretty standard, I would say.
Yeah, but I mean, anyway, to wrap off that point, I think it's good to get a big win like that. It came at the perfect time, and I think now that people are being more positive now again. I think the next big thing would be to get a good crowd in on the weekends for the Bologna game, because that's something that's been lacking all season. 50% doesn't sound like much, but for Lazio that would still mean a crowd of 30,000, which is something that we really struggled to get all season long. So I really hope that whatever the fans' motivations are, whether it's to protest or whether it's to support, that they're there this weekend.
Yeah, we'll try our best. The Campanile's family is going, so
yeah,
plus
you're the most reliable ones in the entire city, I think.
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up here, Alistair. Thanks again for joining me. Thanks everybody for listening. Remember, you can subscribe to our podcast pretty much everywhere you listen to our podcast. Subscribe to our Twitch channel, Lazio World. And if you want to support the channel, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts at $2 a month. We're going to be back as soon as possible. I don't know if after the Coppa Italia or after Lazio Bologna. Bye, Alistair.